Well, it happened 35 years ago today at Historic Bowman Field, August 31st, 1987, the Great Potato Caper. It was when one Dave Bresnahan decided to throw a potato instead of a baseball down the third baseline. As a former Williamsport Bills catcher, he's going to be back in town tonight at Muncie Bank Ballpark at Historic Bowman Field to mark the 35th anniversary and kind enough to give us a few minutes. Dave, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Nice to be back in Williamsport.
So let's have some fun with this, okay? 1987, the Williamsport Bills, and they weren't really playing all that well. You knew the writing was on the wall, so go back to that moment when you told yourself, yep, let's change it up a little bit. I'm going to throw a potato instead of a baseball. Well, was this your idea or a bunch of your teammates coming up with that idea? How did it all fall into place?
Well, of course, in the bullpen, in the first couple innings, you know, as long as your starting pitcher's doing well, there's not much to do. So there's a lot of different discussions, and not always baseball. But it was at that time, you know, which was a couple weeks before the end of the season, that I brought up, you know, some sort of hidden ball trick, and I know a rosin bag was kind of brought up, and I remember saying, you know, I'm Irish. What about a potato? Because I was thinking of something somewhat round. And then, of course, you know, we were all laughing about it. And I don't even know who it was, but one of my teammates says, you should do it, really. And then it just became more of a dare. And everybody was excited, you know, to even the thought of doing it. And then, of course, being the backup catcher, you know, my response was, you know, I don't even know if I'm going to get in. And then, again, another teammate said, well, we've got a doubleheader coming up. You're going to catch one of those. So it kind of painted myself in a corner. And then I also wanted to make sure there was a guy on third with two outs because I wanted, you know, to if the play worked, you know, and then have all of us come off the field because it would be the third out, and then make the umpires, you know, take us back, you know, or bring us back on the field if he was going to rule against it. So that was my whole thought. And lo and behold, I mean, you know, it happened. And so as far as setting up the situation. So then I had the potato and a spare glove in the dugout. And, of course, you know, I went in there once the runner up from second went to third on a ground out for the second out. And my heart was beating, and really couldn't believe I was actually doing this. And I was kind of nervous, too, that, you know, if it would work or not. And, you know, then I went behind home plate with the potato in my glove hand, and I gave the sign. I wanted to pitch low and away so the hitter wouldn't swing at it. And I transferred the potato into my bare hand as Mike Fail, the pitcher, was delivering the pitch. And he actually threw it a little bit in the dirt, so I had to pick it. And then I came up, you know, firing the potato. Of course, you know, it's field, it's a little moist, and it's not exactly round, and it's smaller. And I was to make a bad throw, but it actually was a pretty good throw. And, of course, my teammate, third baseman, roommate, also, Rob Swain, he knew, of course, not to catch it, so he had to kind of alligator arm it, which he did. And then it went out into left field. And, you know, sure enough, you know, Rick Lundblade, the runner, he started, you know, running home. And I thought, oh, my God, this is actually working. So right before he touched home plate, I jumped up in front and tagged him, showed him the ball, rolled it onto the mound, and, you know, I started jogging towards the dugout. But none of my teammates were doing that. They were all laughing inside their gloves. And, of course, no one really knew what happened except for us. And, of course, my manager, Orlando Gomez, he didn't know. And that's where a lot of confusion. The umpire was upset, and, you know, they were trying to figure out what it was. And then, you know, the Phillies, the team we were playing, they were on the third base dugout. They, you know, had heard the umpire, the third base umpire, yell, you know, it's a blanking potato. And they all chuckled. And again, I kept thinking they were just going to send the runner back to third and, you know, and maybe kick me out of the game. That's what we thought was going to happen. And it didn't. So they ruled the runner, you know, safe and had to get the third out. And we came back and, we won that game. And thankfully, so we're only 26 games out of first place. But then it was the first game of a doubleheader, and we went into the clubhouse after the game, just to take a break. And Orlando called me into his office, and he was upset. He didn't understand why I did that, and I told him it was just a team prank. And
now, was he the only one who did not know? Like all your teammates knew, and the manager didn't? Yeah,
my pitching coach knew too. Again, there's a lot more backstory to this. I mean, I don't know how much time you guys have, but what's really strange about this whole thing was we broke spring training out of Arizona, as Steve Swisher was our manager. A lot of us had won the Midwest League in '86 and got promoted to Double-A, and Swisher was our manager. And Buffalo was our Triple-A team where Orlando was managed. And the first month and a half of the season, Buffalo was doing poorly, and they wanted to make a change. So they promoted Swish to Triple-A, and then they demoted Orlando from Triple-A to Double-A. So, you're flying in that league and driving buses in Double-A, and Orlando came down to manage us, and it was just a poor chemistry, situation. And I'm not blaming, our poor performance on him, but it was just, if Swisher was the manager, I would have never done it. He'd have killed me. So just a lot of that, where people were just looking for the season to end and just go home and kind of regroup. And it was something fun to talk about, and that's how it all kind of happened.
Well, it's still fun to talk about, and as days and years go by, it's more fun. And who'd have thought that because of the great potato caper with Dave Bresnahan here with us. And don't forget tonight, Bowman Field, 6:35. It'll be the Williamsport Potato Capers taking on Trenton. Go to crosscutters.com for your tickets and more info on the team. Your number 59 gets retired. No one else in Williamsport Pro Baseball will wear 59 again.
Oh, boy. That's fun.
Dave, can you imagine in 1987 if there was social media, if everyone had smartphones back then, how much faster this story would have traveled?
Yeah, I have thought about that because the timeline there, back then, no cell phones and internet. Orlando fined me $50, and as soon as I walked out of that office, Mike Bellman, a teammate, yelled, "Hey, how much was the fine?" And I said $50. And then Bellman said, "Okay, everybody, we'll all pitch in $2 to pay Brez's fine." Of course, none of that really happened because we were getting ready to play the game. We played that second game, and then we went to Joey's place, which was a frequent place we would go to after a game, and we were all kind of talking about it and laughing, and even the pitching coach, Brian Allard was his name, and we're just having fun with it. And the next morning, I get a call, of course, landline, to come to the ballpark. And that's usually not a good sign. And it was like 10 in the morning. And that's when Orlando handed me the phone from our director of minor leagues, Jeff Scott, and to tell me, that they're going to release me. And there's like 1 or 2 games left in the season. And so none of this is really in the press, although the AP and the UPI, the wire that did go across that night that a potato was thrown. And I got another phone call from a friend of mine who worked for the Arizona Republic, the newspaper, and he'd seen it on the AP UPI wire. And he goes, "Dave, this is a big story." I go, "Big story? I just got released." And he goes, "Oh, my God, that's even a better story." And so, and there's nothing that happened, like right away. It all had to kind of, trickle, and then it took off from there. And so it is funny, if social media was around, it would have been a lot different. I'm sure someone would have recorded some of it. And the Fanatic was there for a promo, the Philly Fanatic. And so there was a pretty good crowd. But that wasn't why we did it either, because we did it because I knew I was going to catch that game. So it's just weird how everything just kind of happened, and we're still talking about it. I'm still floored, to this day that, here it is 35 years later. I mean, I'm 60 years old. I was 25 when I did this.
As you were leading up to that moment, I mean, were you concerned, or any of your teammates, you may get fined, you may get tossed off the team? Any of that cross your mind before you threw the potato?
No. So my roommate on the road was Bob Gergen, and he grew up with a guy named Timmy Cheetah, who at the time was a major league umpire. And we got a hold of him, and we ran it by him. And I also, was pretty aware of all the rules, and I knew there wasn't something in the rule book. So I did check that. And as a confirmation, we called Cheetah and to ask him. He laughed. He thought it was funny. He said, look, if it was my game in the minor league, what I would do is kick the guy out who threw it, and I would call the play dead and send the runner back. So that's what kind of cemented it for me. All right, I can live with that, and then so no harm, no foul, But, it didn't work out that way. And I did get released. Of course, hitting $150 didn't help my cause. So.
Well, Dave Bresnahan is going to be at Historic Bowman Field tonight as we honor the 35th anniversary of that big event, the Great Potato Caper. Well, we didn't think it was a big event when it was going on this day in 1987. And the Crosscutters tonight will become the Williamsport Potato Capers with potatoes on the jerseys and the whole ball of wax versus Trenton. First pitch will be at 6:35, and Dave will be on hand for photos and autographs, and it's going to be a terrific time. Check out all the information at crosscutters.com. And Dave, I hope you never, ever get tired of telling the story. Number 59 in your 1987 Williamsport Bills scorebook, and number 1 in our Williamsport Pro Baseball hearts. And enjoy your time back here in town, Dave. Thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot. I look forward to the game tonight.